Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of week 2. Now we're going to talk about writing argumentative essays. The key to writing an argument is to make it clear and shining. Arguments are a way to cooperate to solve tough problems. A lot of times in our culture, we think about arguments as one person going against the other person and there being a winner. But arguments are really more about cooperating to solve tough problems. Um, the in order to argue, you have to use critical thinking. And critical thinking is really an on-the-job skill. People want to hire people who are able to look at issues from both sides and to work together with other people to solve those issues. It doesn't matter what your profession is going to be, that will always be an on-the-job skill that is highly valued. So the use of argument has two different aspects to it. The first is the most obvious, right? We use argument to convince others to think or do as we say, right? But we also use argument in order to decide for ourselves what we should think or do. Argument gives us the patience to gather all of the information, not to make just rash decisions, but to look at every different side of the argument. Skepticism to not accept anything at face value. It gives us the logical ability to use facts as evidence, to seek facts that contradict our own conclusions, right? To really verify what we're deciding about something is the best decision, and to always be ready to change our minds. Now, one way to really enhance your argument is to write it down. And very soon you all will have that opportunity when you write an argumentative paper. Writing down an argument gives you time to consider your argument. When you're in a verbal debate, like on the spot, you make quick decisions, even if you've done a lot of research. But writing down your argument makes you fully examine your argument. It makes you think about the audience that will be reading it, and it makes you check your facts and logic to make sure what you're writing down is true. Now, like I said, argument uses something called critical thinking. Critical thinking, the word critical thinking is derived from a Greek word, kritikos, and that means to judge an idea by separating the evidence, like the facts, from your feelings and the feelings of others, because feelings alone can't prove a thesis. It doesn't mean you can't feel strongly about something, feel passionately about something. It means if you're critically thinking, you don't let those emotions guide you. You let the facts guide you in your decision making. Good critics ask questions and find answers through research. Good critics question themselves and their ideas, that going back again and again to that idea of always testing your conclusion, always testing what you're arguing to make sure it's the best possible argument. There are two different types of problems. There's practical problems, and those are something that always have a solution to find. And then there's conceptual problems, and those are things that help us think about the world, but they aren't immediately solvable. Like, what is the meaning of life, or how to solve world peace. These are really big conceptual issues that are very difficult to solve. But by thinking about them, we can learn a lot about humanity, about ourselves, about the world that we live in. The form of a thoughtful argument is like this. You start off by making a claim, a statement that you want us to believe. Then you give reasons, you make us believe by giving us evidence to support what you're saying. And you want to know your intention before you make your claim. That means know your purpose. Before you even begin drafting your argumentative paper, you want to know what is your purpose for choosing this topic? Why do you think it's important to argue? Okay? Really think about that. And you want to understand the history of the topic. Who are the experts on this topic? what's been happening in this debate? How was it back in the, if your topic reaches farther back, what was it like about your topic in the 1950s versus, or what if it's a newer topic, what was it like 5 years ago, 10 years ago? What were people saying then? Think about the history of the topic, and also the counter arguments. What do people who are arguing the other side say? And you want to be able to really address those counter arguments in your essay. Find evidence to support how you can refute those counter arguments. So how do you give reasons to support your claim? You use something called logic. You use something called logos, pathos, and ethos. Logos is when you appeal to a reader using reason and evidence. These are the facts and figures. Pathos is when you appeal to a reader using emotions. It's when you put a human face on the issue at hand. Ethos is where you build your own persona. This is often done in your introduction. And you show yourself as a trustworthy source that has some experience in this topic. Now, for example, maybe you're talking about gun violence in the schools. This is a topic that's come up recently in the news. And perhaps you want to talk about, you're going to be arguing that there should be a ban on assault rifles because of the school shooting in Newton, Connecticut. So maybe you're going to argue that. So for logos, you would go and look for facts about maybe how often the type of gun that was used there was used in other school shootings, or how many people died in that shooting, or how many people were affected by that shooting, or facts and figures like that. Okay, you would use those to prove your points. Then you would also use pathos. And in a case like this, you could use actual stories of the victims of the crime, or stories of the the shooter, or stories of the town itself. Or it's really personalizing it and giving us a face to the issue. Ethos, you could talk about yourself. Maybe you're someone who's experienced with guns, or maybe you're someone who's scared of guns, or maybe you're someone who was just scared by all the school shootings, and that since Columbine happened, or since one of these big things happened, you've been deeply affected by it, and so you feel like it's an important issue for our society to solve. That would be one way to approach ethos. You haven't created a bias, you're just explaining why you feel the way that you do about the topic. So as your reader is reading your paper, they're always going to be asking, why should I care? Right? This is what I'm thinking about when I'm reading your paper. Why should I care? You want to sell your argument to me. You want to make sure the reader understands your purpose all the time. So one way to check for this is to share your elevator story or a draft of your paper with your fellow students or your family, or you can visit your professor in office hours, or you can set up a time outside of office hours to talk about your argumentative essay, and make sure that what you're saying is coming across, and that the purpose of your paper is really coming across. So that brings me to the elevator story. Now, the elevator story is a core part of really understanding your own argumentative topic, your claim that you're going to be making in your paper. When you create your own elevator story, which will be part of the process of writing your paper, I want you to spend about a paragraph on each of these. Do this as part of your pre-writing process. So the first thing you're going to write down is the question or problem your argument will address. Okay, what is the big problem or question? And this is where you would add in a little bit of the history, right? What do you know about this problem? Who talks about this problem? Okay? And then talk about why that problem is important or interesting to you. Why do you want to talk about it? Okay, what's important about it? Then you want to provide your answer or solution to the problem. What have you decided is a possible way to solve this problem, or what is a solution to the issue? Then I want you to go through and find evidence to support what you're saying. Don't just say, I'm going to use some of the stuff that Susan Ornstein says in her article, What's Wrong with Cinderella? I want you to tell me specifically what that evidence is. Again, it should be about a paragraph for each of these bullets. All right, that brings us to our assignments for the week. The first assignment this week is actually optional, but I highly recommend that you all come. There will be a library visit from 2 to 3 p.m. on Tuesday, June 25th. And I have already sent out a message about this, but I want to make sure that you guys know about it. I will be there in person along with our librarian, Nancy McNary. She's going to be leading us in a session on basic library usage and how to use the research databases, which you will begin using next week. It's really important that you come if you can. It's located, we're going to be in the 1700 building of at the library at Napa Valley College, the main campus in Napa, and I will send more details this week. So the next thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be practicing your elevator story, but you're going to be practicing figuring out an elevator story by talking about What's Wrong with Cinderella, one of the essays you're reading for this week. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to write about what Ornstein's elevator story is. So you're going to talk about what is the question or problem that she's writing about. What is the problem? Why is that problem interesting or important to her? What is her answer? And then what evidence does she use to support what she's saying? Then I want you to turn to your own elevator story in response to her. I want you to tell me, do you agree or disagree with the problem she's writing about and her answer? And try not to, really try to not be opinionated here. This is really important. You want to join the conversation, remember, and make a shining response, okay? If you agree with her, what evidence does she provide that convinces you of her argument and why? And then if you don't agree with her, what evidence does she provide that you refute, that you do not agree with, right? And then if you can, present some evidence to support your disagreement without sounding biased. Next, we're going to be doing our active reading journal on Susan Sontag's essay regarding the pain of others. You're actually going to be reading the essay first, actively reading. That means asking questions in the margins, underlining words you don't understand and looking them up, right? Just like we went over last week. And then I want you to watch this video clip from Medium Cool. It's a movie back from 1968. And it is located on this URL here. It's also in the it's on the journal prompt, but it's very short. It's about 3 or 4 minutes long. So using evidence from the text and the film, write a response where you answer the following questions: Who was Susan Sontag? Why do you think she was interested in writing about this topic? What is the main point she's making in her essay, and what evidence does she use to make the point? What is the movie Medium Cool about? When and where is this movie set? What happens in the video clip? How do the reporter and his cameraman react to the car crash? And do you agree with their actions or disagree? Why or why not? Finally, well, almost finally, you have to you're going to do your first formal writing assignment for this class. Your first writing assignment is an argumentative essay. For this essay, please choose one of the topics introduced in the essays we've read so far in The Conscious Reader. Begin your essay by introducing the topic and the conversation that you're joining. Clearly state your claim or thesis and the subtopics or reasons you will address in order to prove your thesis. Use reasons and evidence to support those reasons found in the essay and one other source to support the points you're making in your essay. I want you to address any counter-arguments in your paper, any counter-arguments, the other side of the argument to what you're arguing. And conclude your essay by showing how you have proven your thesis, explaining what the reader gained by reading your paper and by relating your paper to a larger purpose of some sort. How does your topic relate to society or to the world at large? Here are the basics. Your essay should be 3 to 4 pages long. Your paper should be in MLA format. I have uploaded a sample paper on the assignment page for you to look at to see what your paper should look like. It's also in chapter 21 of the Bedford Researcher. Your paper should also have a creative title. And a successful paper will show critical thinking and use logos, pathos, and ethos effectively. So when you turn it in, and it's all due on June 30th at 11:59 p.m., so a week from today, or from Monday, sorry. It'll be Sunday night at 11:59 p.m., June 30th. You want to show evidence of your pre-writing. So if you did any sort of pre-writing, you need to show me that. And remember, you're responsible for 2 types of pre-writing. You need to show me your elevator story. Remember, I showed you the form earlier in this lecture, and I want to see evidence of how you completed that. I want to see a final draft of your paper. I want it to be you want to really pay attention to making sure you don't have any spelling errors and everything's in correct MLA format. To begin this, how I approach this assignment is to begin with completing 2 pre-writing techniques, develop an elevator story, find logos, ethos, and pathos to support your argument. That's evidence from the essay and personal experiences and evidence from one other source, and then begin to draft your paper. Now, if you have any questions about any of this, I hope you know you should email me or come to my office hours, or even better, come by the library visit on Tuesday and ask me in person. All right, the last assignment for this week is to complete 3 units in comp class, locating research for various types of information needs, comprehending and assessing the appropriateness of resources, and critically assessing the credibility and validity of sources. All right, next week, this is what's coming. I really look forward to seeing you guys online, and please don't hesitate to ask me questions.